Okay, 8th grade. We are now on lesson 1.3, ordering real numbers. I feel like this lesson just gives us a chance to practice that skill of estimating what a square root could be, those in-betweens, those ish numbers. So we'll use our handy dandy chart again for this because it becomes really useful. Okay, so if we're looking at a question like this, where they want to know the square root of 3 plus 5, how does that compare to 3 plus the square root of 5? And we could guess 5 is more than 3, but we kind of need to know where these fall in terms of what they are as a square root. So we'll use our handy dandy list. And we'll go ahead and find the in-betweens. So here for square root of 3, I'm finding that square root of 4 is immediately higher, and then the only thing lower than square root of 4 as a perfect square is square root of 1. So I'm going to have square root of 1 as the lowest and square root of 4 as the highest, and that square root of 3 is going to fall somewhere in between, right? And the square root of 1 is 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. And the square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. So I know that the square root of 3 falls somewhere in between 1 and 2. So like 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Let's just call it 1.5, right in the middle. And then, of course, we bring down this 5. And then let's look at this square root of 5 over here. So back to my handy dandy list. Just below a square root of 4 is going to be, square root of 5 is going to be a square root of 4. And just above it is going to be the square root of 9. So I'll put that here. Square root of 4 is just below it, and just above it is square root of 9 is the two perfect squares that surround it. And I know that the square root of 4 is 2 because 2 times 2 is 4. And I know the square root of 9 is 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. So I know that square root of 5 falls somewhere in between there. And one thing I notice is that this 5 is much closer to 4 than it is to 9. So I'm going to say something like a 2.1 or a 2.2-ish, I'm going to think. So let's say 2.2. Now I'm just adding these together. 1.5 plus 5 is 6.5. Remember, that is a 5.0. So 6.5 compared to 3 plus 2.2 is going to be a 5.2. Remember, that is a 3.0. So we have to keep things lined up when we add decimals. And 6.5 is greater than 5.2. So that's really all we're doing in that lesson, is comparing those and comparing after practicing the skill of rounding or estimating our roots. And then the other thing they're having us do, and again, it's just practicing the same skill, is ordering these irrational and rational numbers on from least to greatest, or greatest to least, or whatever. So as an example, they gave us is to order the numbers square root of 22, pi plus 1, and 4.5 from least to greatest. Okay, well, some of that's easy. I can mark it right on a number line right away, and some of it's going to need a little bit of work using my handy dandy tool. So I'll start by drawing a number line. And on my number line, I'm going to go ahead and put the 4.5 right on there, because to me, that's an easy one to place on there. It's 4.5 right in the middle there, right? So I'm going to go ahead and mark 4.5. I'll mark it as its decimal 2, 4.5, same thing, right? Okay, so that's that one was easy enough. Also, probably fairly easy for you is this pi plus 1, because you know that pi equals 3.14, and if I'm going to add one whole number to it, then I'm going to get 4.14. So that's going to fall right over here at about 4.1-ish. So we'll call that 4.1, which is pi plus 1. Okay? So that's where we're at this point. The trickier one is this square root of 22. So we'll kind of use that skill again. So we're going to look on our list for the the square root perfect square that's right below and the perfect square that's right above. So 22 would fall right in about here. So we have the square root of 16 and the square root of 25 immediately above and below. So I'm just going to write it down here. Square root of 16, square root of 25 is what surrounds our square root of 22. All right, so I know that the square root of 16 is 4, so I'm going to write that underneath. I know that the square root of 25 is 5, so I'm going to write that right there, which tells me that the square root of 22 is somewhere in between 4 and 5, so it's a 4 point something. It's closer to the 25 than it is the 16, so it's going to be higher than a 4.5. So somewhere in the 4.6, 4.7, 4.8-ish. Let's go with 4.7-ish. Now, if it were falling right in the middle at 4.5, then I might get even more exact and start multiplying to find out exactly where, because I'd have to compare it to that one and see, did it come out higher or did it come out lower? But I can tell that it's higher than 4.5 because this is so much closer to that than it is to that. So it's, as long as it's 4.6 or higher, I'm good. So I'm going to put over here 4.7-ish. That's a 7, which is our square root of 22. So now I can just order it in the order that they come in. So my pi plus 1 was the smallest. The 4.5 was the next smallest. And the biggest number out of all three of those was the square root of 22. So again, you're still practicing a lot of the same skills of ordering numbers, which you're very good at by now. The only thing that's thrown at you as a twist is to practice using this to estimate what that square root might be. So other than that, that's pretty much the lesson. If you need any additional assistance, let me know.